Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the failover cluster. Last time we were talking about the network load balancing clustering in Windows Server 2008, and today we are continuing with failover clusters. Since you are watching this video, I think you already know the difference between the failover clusters and network load balancing clusters. In case you don't, then take a look at the link below, and I think I explained pretty much about it as best as I could. The link is in the video description in YouTube. If you are watching it from my blog, then look no further, because the description is already there. You will see that creating failover clusters in Windows Server 2008 is a pretty simple task, almost as simple as network load balancing cluster. And I must put a disclaimer that we are not going to talk about the SQL Server failover cluster. We are going to talk about the Windows Server feature with that name. We will talk about the SQL Server pretty much soon, but it's a different thing. The failover cluster in SQL Server. It's a feature of SQL Server. So today we are going to talk about the feature, the failover cluster that you are going to use for some other servers. It could be the SQL Server, it could be whatever else, like file server or whatever you want to be a failover. So let's begin. First thing that we will need to do is to manage the iSCSI of your Windows Server, the iSCSI interface, the service. By default it's not running, so you will see this message stating whether you want to start this service and ensure that it will automatically run each time you start your computer. Since we are going to configure it, definitely we want it to run on startup, so definitely we're answering yes. And the next question is about making the rule in Windows Firewall, and we're saying yes as well. So the thing you need to do, you need to add the portal of that iSCSI device. Of course, this device should be already attached to your machine. So we're entering the IP address of that portal. And just in case, if you wonder what is this iSCSI portal, you should remember that iSCSI is Internet Small Computer System Interface. So it's the system that carries the SCSI commands over the IP networks. So it's used to facilitate data transfers over intranets and to manage storage over long distances. So in your server room, it's like a device with a network interface, which serves as a large hard drive. So you can use it for your failover clusters as well as storage for any other servers. So here we just put its IP address and use it as a hard drive through IP interface. So we refresh the target, we see it's inactive. So we have to select it and click the logon to create a connection to it. Now we automatically restore this connection when the computer starts. That's quite obvious. Enable multipath. Make sure that your device supports the multipath, because if you will select it here and it doesn't support it, or especially if it's if it doesn't have the logo of Windows Server 2008, then perhaps it could have problems with either that setting or clustering at all. So click this to settings, click OK, the status is connected, and just in case you wonder, the advanced settings are about the authentication and encryption. So you can put here the CHAP or radius authentication, the IPsec encryption, but it's not in our case. We have just a simple IP connection. So we click OK and switch to second server, the second node of our future cluster. Now it's server 5B, and we are doing absolutely the same. We are connecting that server to the same iSCSI storage. So we are going to discovery, we are adding the portal, adding its IP address. Now go to targets, see that it's inactive, of course it's inactive. Click log on, check both checkboxes. Now the status is connected, everything is fine, we click OK, but now I've seen a few system administrators making this mistake. They forget that they did the last action and they are going back to targets. They don't care that status is connected, so they create second connection, and we'll see how it will end. So we switch back to the first server, and now we are going to storage, and we see that we have the system drive, which is disk 0, 64 gigabytes, absolutely normal hard drive. And the second one is that iSCSI drive, which is a huge 1 gigabyte hard drive, which was offline. We put it online. Now it's not initialized, so we have to initialize it. So the system knows it now. We don't care about either MBR or GPT, so we leave it as is, as MBR, master boot record. There will be just one small partition. So 1 gigabyte of unallocated space, and we are creating new simple volume here. It's just a normal simple volume wizard. We use all the space, we assign it the drive letter E. It will be NTFS with the volume label of data. And in this case we will perform the quick format, yet in a real environment it's much better to use the normal format. Okay, so we have it now. We switched back to the server B, and now you'll see this double connection problem that we deliberately created. So you see the system drive, disk 0, and two connections to the same iSCSI hard drive. Here they are. So we need to remove the excessive connections, and that's how you do it. You go to Administrative Tools, go to iSCSI Initiator, then go to Targets. Here it is. It's one target. And you see, if you add it again, you have second connection. If you add it again, you have third connection, as much as you want. So if you want to remove the excessive ones, you have to select the target and click the details. You will see all the stations to the drive. So select everything after first one and click log off. That's it. It's not really a problem. So the drive is here, except that it's offline. We put it online. Now we have two nodes connected to one drive. Changes you make to the drive in one node, the second node will see. So now we are again on our first server, and what we are going to do now is we are going to create the failover cluster. So go to failover cluster management. You will see the console here, and as you can see here, to begin use failover clustering, first validate your hardware configuration. So that's the first step that we are going to do. We will validate the configuration. There are two links. One is here, and we will click it, and the second link is on the right hand side on the actions, so they lead to the same wizard. Before you will do it on real with a real cluster, read everything here. We will go the real administrator's way, and we will not read any descriptions. So we will add the names of all the servers. We have two servers now. The server 5A and server 5B. Again, we are not creating the cluster now. We are validating the configuration. Next, run all tests for sure. That's in our best interest. And when we click next, it's going to start the testing. What's good about this testing is that it's asynchronous, which means that tests begin on all nodes simultaneously, and we are not going to wait till the end of the previous test to start the new one. As you can see, some of them are pending, some of them are running, but some of them are already done, even if they were scheduled after those ones. Alright, the test passed. Here's the report that you can see and export if you need. It's a normal HTML report. Just click View Report and see that all of your tests are passed. So you see that green icon and the description says success. You can go to detailed view, and perhaps it's a good idea to save it for later reference, because it also contains all the IP and MAC addresses of your nodes. So now we click Finish. The configuration, the validation of configuration is completed. So the next thing that we need to do, we have to create a cluster, since everything is fine and we can do it. So let's click it. Again, read all the descriptions, click Next. And just as previously, we are adding the names of all the servers that we want to have in the cluster. So there are two servers in our nodes as nodes. We must give the cluster name. It's a very creative one, the cluster 1, and it should have the IP address. We'll give it unique IP address. And we are waiting until the cluster will be configured. And in the end of this wizard, the cluster is online. So again, here is the report, but in this case we are not going to click View Report. We are going to look at that report in the file system. So here's our cluster. We'll go to Windows Explorer and see at the exact location where this report was saved. It's in Drive C in Windows, the cluster, C Windows cluster, and here is the directory named reports. So here it is. And what we need from here is one of the last lines that says that the cluster was successfully created. If we see this line, then everything is fine. It's right here in the end. So we have this cluster, and now it seems like the only thing that we have left is to test it and to see that all nodes are online, and to see how it behaves if we switch one of them offline, like for applying Windows updates or something. Except that it's not completely configured yet, because we need to configure the cluster quorum. So what does this quorum thing means? Imagine that every node in your failover cluster has a vote, and it votes for who's the boss, who owns the resources of your cluster. So if you have 3 nodes, and each of nodes has one vote, and one node was disconnected, like your network router was restarted or cable malfunction, whatever. It was disconnected for a few seconds, and the second node took over the cluster, and now the first node returns, and it assumes that it still owns the cluster, but it's not. So in voting process, 2 nodes which stayed online, which were not disconnected, or at least they were in majority, so they vote and convince that one node that it's not the master anymore. So there are a few quorum types, and some of them involve the external hard drive, which serves as a witness, or the file server share, which serves as a witness. So since the disconnection is quite relative, it will become relative to that external hard drive or the share. So for example, if there are 5 nodes, 2 of them with the witness stayed in one segment and other 3 nodes were disconnected from the rest, in this second scenario, the 2 nodes will be connected, and 3 nodes will be counted as disconnected. So one of these 2 nodes which are connected to the witness, one of them will become the master of the cluster. So we could take this second option. If we would have the disk online. And that's how it would look like. We would have to select the disk, go next, and so on. But now we will do it differently, like most system administrators do. We will select the file server share. So if the file server share is a witness, then the ones that are connected to that share, who don't lose the connectivity with it, they will be considered online, and others will have to shut down their cluster service. Okay, so we selected the file share as the witness. Go next, and that's it. The cluster quorum is selected. So we must only check now whether they are up and running. Yes, the status is up. You can click on any node and see some details about it. And also you can right click or select the action on the right hand or from the navigation to pause this node. Like, for example, you want to update it or change something in configuration and you don't want that to affect the cluster, so you pause it and do your changes, and then you resume it. So in that case, if you need to apply updates, for example, you are doing it through pause and resume. So this is like it. It's all we had about the failover clusters for starters. I will continue with this topic because we will need to discuss the iSCSI, how to configure it, and some failover cluster management things, because you can see the navigation pane is quite big. But for now, thank you for watching, and have a good day.